Alright, kama kawa kama dawa, tuko hapa tena kila siku asubuhi leo na kila siku kuwakaribisha kwa siku nyingine mpya. Hii ni Morning Cafe. My name is Fred Ndimuli. How hot is the coffee where you are? I know kuna harufu ya tear gas kila mahali, hata hapa kwa studio iko kidogo. Wewe ulikuwa huko?
Hapana.
Bora nuka tear gas.
Labda tremor kidogo.
Oh, I hear there was a tremor.
There was a tremor around 8:40 p.m. depending on where you are. I didn't feel it, but then majority of Kenyans in Nairobi and other parts of the country. But then the biggest debate was it an earthquake or was it a tremor? It was a tremor because a tremor is below a Richter scale. Should be below 5.0. If you're below that, that's a tremor. It was 4.6 magnitude. 4.6. So that was definitely a tremor. But anyway, I'm yours truly standing in Ringita. It's a wonderful Wednesday morning, quite chilly right here in Nairobi. Sijui palioko how it looks like, and this is the conversations that you're going to be having. Is marriage about love or companionship? We're going to be having a couple as well as young people. What to say to break down hii maneno.
Is marriage about love or companionship?
Tujaribu kuelewa back in the day, if the initial goal was about love, comparing to right now, the dynamics, have they changed?
All right. Before that, we're going to have this panel on set on State of the Nation, just taking a look at the big headlines. Danson Mungatana, the Senator of Tana River, Pamela Odhiambo, former woman rep Migori, Beatrice Elachi, MP Dagoretti North, and Hatib Mwashetani, former MP Lunga Lunga constituency. Do stand by for that conversation.
Oh yes, and these conversations are going to be here, are going to be formed by the headlines, which are very, very interesting for today. First off, the Standard.
Paralysis as Gen Zs turn heat on counties. Yes, tear gas. Unaona tu hii si ati ni white paper. This is just tear gas.
And this photo actually made rounds on social media. This was one, I think at a photographer wake. It was one photo that made rounds.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Now, I love such a headline.
A white backdrop on it.
A full page, and it's just a digit, the design. Someone really put some thought behind this.
Yes.
And I just love that headline.
They're going with 50. This is what KNCHR is saying as of June 8th. Was it June 18th? Yes, the number of people who have lost their lives so far.
Okay, July 18th.
July, yes.
Kumbe mambo bado, na picha ya tear gas, vitoa machozi, everywhere, pandemonium. That's what is on the front page of Taifa Leo. This is a long one, I won't read it.
Business Daily, Ruto's Nairobi Securities Exchange plan hit as private investors buy out top firms. We'll be back to
more photos of smoke and tear gas.
Yes.
And of course the Kenyan flag. And shaken. I love such a headline as well. Just one word.
One word.
And then you see the picture there.
Camilla Standard ingekuwa to paralysis.
Exactly. Jamaa javaa shati alafu anaangalia askari asema iko ni.
I am unbogable.
Another long one.
Business paralyzed as protests continue.
Again, tear gas.
Yes.
You see?
And running battles.
Yeah.
Huyu kidogo tu angeshikwa.
Interesting.
Nile 1-2. Across the borders, this is Uganda's front page Daily Monitor. Government plans to jail big campaign spenders. How about that? Saying with the
conversation there.
The political temperatures rising ahead of the 2026 general election, a proposed law endorsed by cabinet to put brakes on commercialization of politics in the country has received a cross-aisle approval. It's on page 4.
Very similar to what goes on in Kenya as well. And yesterday, President Museveni flagged off Uganda's team to the next week's Olympic Games in Paris. So they're being handed over the flag as they go to represent their country. Still in Uganda, cash for salaries arrears released. So wale wako wamelipwa watalipwa. This is a new vision. And of course, the mention of what's happening in neighboring Rwanda. Kagame wins poll by 99%. It was actually 99.15%. So that's more or less 100% of the vote. And a photo there again of the President Museveni flagging off the Ugandan team to the Olympics.
From Uganda, let's cross over to pale chini in Tanzania. The front page of Mwananchi, zigo la madeni nje mwiba nchi za EAC. Sema kila nchi inalia kivyake kuhusu ukubwa na mwenendo wa madeni yanayozidi kugeuka mwiba. Viongozi wa haha kuongeza makusanyo kupata uwezo wa kulipa. Wasomi washauri uhalisia wa matumizi ya fedha za umma.
Yeah, the big story about debt.
Yes.
And they have images of the three presidents of the East Africa community, Samia Suluhu Hassan, President Ruto, and Museveni there. Debt is a big story across the region. Many people are discussing that. Of course, we remain in Tanzania, and on the Citizen, parents, schools on
alert.
On alert over child disappearances. Wow, worrying trend there. Reports of child disappearances in Dar es Salaam have put parents and schools on high alert and prompted additional measures to ensure the safety and security of pupils while on their way to and from school. Now, this is a worrying trend where children are disappearing.
Mostly tied to the ongoing conversations about abductions in Tanzania.
Oh, yes. And that same question about debt. Huge impact of loans on countries in East Africa also getting prominence, or at least some highlight on the front page of the Citizen. These are the dailies this morning. We'll be looking at the local ones in a bit, in more detail, but let's come back to...
I was trying to load the New Times.
I think they're still in celebration.
They're still in celebration.
In Rwanda.
Tuangalia the traffic situation.
Oh yes, yesterday barabara zilikuwa empty. Today we do expect a return of normal traffic, especially on the main roads in and around Nairobi. Kama kawaida, because of the weather situation, a huge section of the main A104, that's the main road from Nairobi towards Nakuru. There are bits of slow traffic, especially around Kimende and Limuru because of the foggy situation. But the other roads are good. Let's come closer to Nairobi city and take a look at the main tributaries into town. Thika Road, traffic is building up. You can see bits of yellow here and there, especially as you get closer to the Pangani interchange. That's normal traffic for a Wednesday morning when there's no maandamano. South of Nairobi, the Mombasa Road into town looking good. A bit of a slowdown once you get close to Nyayo Stadium, meaning there's heavy traffic, or rather traffic is slowly building up, but nothing to worry about as at this hour. The main highway from Nakuru, that's A104, Waiyaki Way, past Loresho all the way into Westlands and into town, looking good as well. So is Langata Road and Ngong Road. So today, people are going back, getting back to business as usual, taking their time. Finally, let's take a look at Jogoo Road. And yes, this is the biggest indicator of normal traffic. Ukiona hii red hapa Makadara, unajua hii ni siku ya kawaida. Yes, hapa Mbotela. This is very normal traffic on Jogoo Road every morning at this time of day. So yes, that is traffic is building up on Jogoo Road, and you can see once you get to City Stadium roundabout, there's a bit of a slowdown there, and as well as on Haile Selassie Avenue and Landis Road. That's the traffic situation this morning.
Right, and now getting into the weather, as much as you know how the traffic looks like, let's see how the weather is going to be. Let's start with Nairobi. There were some light showers experienced even as we coming into the office, so that might continue getting into the day. They say 15 degrees Celsius in Nairobi, precipitation of 10% for the whole day, and cloudy conditions expected up to midday, and then some light showers maybe after the afternoon. Let me just zoom in that for you. So that is how things are going to be looking like from afternoon heading into the evening. The light showers are going to be increasing into average rainfall. So tafuta umbrella and just yeke mahali ko bag, because you might just need it for today. That is in Nairobi. If you're in the coastal sides of Kilifi, unaweza toa jacket kidogo because it's 24 degrees Celsius.
You know, even the weather in Nairobi today will not get this high. Hata ikifika saa 10,
it won't get
this high. But this is 6 a.m. and in Kilifi it's already 24 degrees Celsius.
And it promises to even get as hotter than that, as high as 28 degrees. Low light showers in Kilifi. Let's take a look at Bobet and see around the Rift Valley region. They say it feels like 13 degrees Celsius at the moment. Some light showers, actually, yes. Thunderstorms and lightning experienced into the evening around Bomet region. So prepare for that if you're in that area. That is the weather update for you. And speaking of what to expect today, quite a lot happening. First off, President William Ruto is expected to officially to preside over the official launch of the National Building Code 2024 and the commissioning of the Mobile Construction Material Testing Laboratories today at the social housing project at the meteorological site. This is a conversation that was also part of his agenda, having mobile phones manufactured even in Kenya. So we expect to see how that will be and what he'll be saying concerning state of the nation. Something else that will be happening today, the retrieval of bodies dumped in Kware dump site in Embakasi, Nairobi County, is expected to continue. It happened yesterday. I believe about 2 bodies were retrieved. So we expect to see how that will be happening. Concurrently, investigations will be happening, as well as autopsies of the recovered bodies is going to also happen. These bodies mostly of female bodies in the city mortuary as well. Something interesting is going to be happening at the Meru County Assembly today. So members of the County Assembly are going to be starting the 3rd impeachment process. 2 so far have happened. Against the governor, Kawira Mwangaza. So this is going to be the 3rd one. So this follows a section of residents drafted a petition to President William Ruto seeking the dissolution of the Meru County government. So we wait to see how that will be happening. According to the order paper that I was taking a look at, the MCAs list a number of reasons why they want the governor out. So we're going to be following up on how that will be happening and the activities on that. And speaking of the, sorry?
I don't know if you have this on your diary.
Yeah.
There's something happening along Kiambu Road later today. The deputy president will be attending the funeral of the late Bishop Alan Kuna.
Oh, yes. He's going to be buried in Thindigwa.
Thindigwa, yeah. So, yes, I should have mentioned it during traffic time, because anyone using Kiambu Road today, starting from around 8 going towards midday, there'll be a lot of traffic. A number of senior government officials expected to attend that funeral service at Thindigwa.
Oh, yes. And speaking of traffic that might be building up, around Karen offices where the Council of Legal Education offices, there might be traffic. Why? Because law students are planning a peaceful protest heading to that region. So the law students are protesting that this council be dissolved, and some of the reasons, they're decrying discrepancies in the April 2024 advocate training program examinations, and they want this council be dissolved. Finally, Kenya's under-20 rugby team, Chip, will be playing against Hong Kong in Scotland today. So far, Kenya has not had any points so far. Also, Hong Kong. So wait to see how that will be. Today is going to be their last match, and see after the final match warejea Kenya. That is a nutshell of what to expect in our news diary, in our news bulletins, that and much more. Right now, though, today in history.
On this day, the World Health Organization WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom declared the ongoing Ebola virus disease outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo as a public health emergency of international concern, a rare designation only used for the gravest of epidemics.
All right, time for us to delve into the dailies. Paralysis as Gen Z's turn the heat on counties. All right, that's the front page of the Standard. Paralysis as Gen Z's turn heat on counties, and a very interesting image of one of the protesters holding up his clutches and with tear gas all around him. At least 23 governors felt the wrath of youth protesters when the residents took to the streets to demand accountability and good governance from the county bosses. Some leaders sought the protection of private guards and supporters wielding rungus, but these were disarmed. The message got home. That was interesting. It happened in Kakamega. Those people had been hired and they had very heavy rungus, and they were made to sing songs as they retreated. So they've listed the number of counties, the 23 counties where protests were witnessed, and that picture there of a disabled protester fleeing from a cloud of tear gas along Kenyatta Avenue in Nakuru City. That's the main story, and it occupies a huge part of the front page. The other story, this is a cabinet we want, Kenyans tell Ruto. Yeah? They say, this story is on page 2. Kenyans looking for people with integrity to sit in the next cabinet. This discussion will continue. They have images there of some of the CSs that have already been let go off on page 2 and whose tenure was riddled with questions regarding their integrity or otherwise. So yes, that's a big headline today. Matters to do with cabinet and the protests yesterday.
There's a very interesting story on page 3. Lawyers now say Kware Made's suspect was forced to confess. Conversation that might be missed with the whole demos that happened yesterday.
Oh yes, because the lawyer was arguing confessions don't just happen like that. There's a process.
There's a process.
You can't say you've arrested someone and he's confessed just like that. How did he confess? So yes, you can read more on that. And then the protests have actually been covered on a lot of pages. So many images there. I think page 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, eight pages just talking about the protests all over the country. That's the main story today on The Standard. In as far as sports is concerned, on the back page, end of the road for England's man of near misses. They talk about Gareth Southgate, who has transformed the English team into a consistent force after decades of underachievement. He now leaves his job as second the most successful manager, but fails to win a major trophy for England, which has been waiting since 1966 World Cup win. Yes, so matters England and the pain of losing the Euro 2024 on the back page. That's a Standard this morning.
5 pages that Daily Nation has dedicated to the conversation of protests. And as we were saying earlier, it has a white backdrop and the figure 50. And inside this figure, these 2 digits, they're trying to piece together who has passed away as well as the missing faces. And they say 50, that is a landmark death toll crossed yesterday. Sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, friends and loved ones killed since the start of the anti-government protests a month ago. Most of the deaths have been attributed to use of excessive force by police in dealing with the largely youthful protesters, according to the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. The numbers have been piling up since the 18th of June, when the provisions of the Finance Bill 2024 stirred up anger across the country. And that continues in 5 pages insert. Other conversations are on the back page. So the National Youth Service cannot account for over 1 billion cash shillings, audit reveals. Nowadays, when you see Auditor General's face, Nancy Kathungu, you know it has to do with some money that cannot be accounted for somewhere.
Oh, yes.
And she says projects worth hundreds of millions remain incomplete despite payments. 69 billion cash shillings to go external debt repayment in July. Say Kenyans will spend about 533 million, that is in dollars, equivalent 69 billion cash shillings, servicing external debt this month, putting a fresh strain on forex reserves that were recently replenished by the proceeds of a World Bank loan. And this is a conversation that we are also seeing cuts across even in our East African neighbors as well.
The issue of debt.
Yes. Kule juu, tusisahau watu wa Gor Mahia walishindwa sana, though in Tanzania, playing the Sakafa, saying Kenya Giants Gor Mahia look for CAF Champions League home venue in Tanzania. Maswala ya sporti pale, that in a nutshell is a Daily Nation.
And they also have that story about the suspect who was arrested in connection to the killings or the discovery of bodies in Kware. And the story is on page 2. They say Collins quoted saying, "I was tortured to confess to Kware killings." As you said, we could be missing out on this story because of the protests. People need to be following up on what exactly this. And his lawyer says confessing in private is different from confessing in court. And you have seen what the police have done by making all sorts of allegations. So that is the latest from that end.
And speaks volumes on the hastiness of how all this came to light.
Oh, yes. I've seen very many explainers online of why some of that of the evidence cannot pass. Let's focus on some business now. The Business Daily, Ruto's NSC plan hit as private investors buy out top firms. Bamburi Cement is the latest target for delisting. President promised 5 to 10 IPOs by December 2023. This is the Business Daily, Matters Business. So private investors are pouncing on NSE-listed firms and then removing them from the bourse, dealing a blow to President William Ruto's administration's plan to increase the number of listed firms at the Nairobi bourse. And they're using this example of Bamburi Cement, one of the NSE's blue chip firms, which is the latest target, and will be delisted if Tanzania's based conglomerate Amson's Group bid sails through. The Business Daily also makes mention of yesterday's protests. They talk about how it affects business. Businesses shut amid fresh deadly protests. And an image there of one of the protesters holding the Kenyan flag next to a fire on Tom Mboya Street in Nairobi yesterday. Other quick highlights: fertilizer subsidy gets extra 2.5 billion shillings in mini budget. A third of businesses expect tough runs. Mauritius fund pays 728 million for credit bank stake. And finally, Kenya to spend 69 billion in July external debt payments. That conversation about debt. So yes, 69 billion.
Na bado unasikia 1 billion.
This month alone.
Bado unasikia 1 billion ya NYS hawajui parliament.
I tell you, that's the front page of the Business Daily today.
From BD to PD, People Daily, that is, one word headline, unshaken. They say Gen Z revolt despite killings and unrest by police. Young brave children sustain demands for good governance amidst queries on their end game. Have a very interesting photo there. Plethora of police officers, front page of People Daily, alafu protesters wawili pale talking to them. People Daily, that is, on the front, the top strip, governors to feel the pinch after budget cuts. Picture there, the COG, the chair of the Council of Governors, Anne Waiguru. And serial killer now disowns confession. Daily has managed to have it on the front page.
Yes, that's impressive.
On the very top strip, Ford Foundation finds itself on front pages. It denies link to anti-Ruto protests. Is on page, more coverage is on page 4. That is the People Daily for you in a nutshell.
Tuangazie gazeti la Taifa Leo. Kumbe mambo bado. Habari kuu pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele. Wanasema baada ya hali ya utulivu ya siku kadhaa, vijana wa Gen Z wamwagika barabara za miji tofauti kwa maandamano. Vijana wakwamisha shughuli katika maeneo tofauti ya nchi baada ya kuandaa maandamano ya pili kwa ukubwa baada ya kuvamia bunge mwezi jana. Ilikuwa ni tarehe 25 mwezi wa Juni. Hiyo ndio habari kuu pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele, na wana picha ya waandamanaji wakikimbia na vitoa machozi.
And I think something else, Fred, that might also go unnoticed, and then mentioned the Media Max journalist who was shot.
Oh yes, in Nakuru, a journalist was shot and injured as she covered the protests.
Yeah. Wearing the jacket.
And that is, I don't have the correct word for it, but it's just sad. Let me just say that.
And just sickening.
Yeah, it's just sad. Well, we wish her a quick recovery.
Oh, yes.
And we condemn that act by whoever shot her. Other quick highlights on the front page of Taifa Leo. Vijana wampa pressure. Huyu ni gavana siku 7 kufuatilia tamasha za kitamaduni kwenye Lamu. Watu wanafanya maandamano kwingine, vijana wa Lamu wanataka tamasha za utamaduni.
I mean, it's a big thing for them. Annual celebrations that people go there, the whole donkey races that always happen. People always looking forward to that.
Okay. Magavana wengine wa pwani pia wako pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele. Magavana 6 wa pwani ziarani Italia. I thought these things were to stop. Wanasaka fedha za kuimarisha sekta ya uchumi wa baharini, kuunda ajira kwa vijana. Na pia wanazungumzia masuala ya Rwanda. Kagame azoa 99% ya kura za urais. Pale juu, Ford Foundation yakana kufadhili maandamano. Na kwenye spoti, waliong'aa Euro sasa wawindwa. Mastaa watarajiwa kunyakuliwa na klabu kubwa msimu huu. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa 20.
And finally, on the front page of the Star, business paralyzed as protests continue. and have a collage of photos there, very interesting, in I think different parts of the country. First off in Tomboya Street, and wapi kwingine pale? Yeah, I think mostly in Moi Avenue, and this really is what the situation was in Nairobi yesterday. So President Ruto has accused non-government organizations of sponsoring the demos. One other headline, because he just had two headlines here. One other headline, end of party after party. Reminds me that ile song ya kitambo sana. Party after party. Ruto's brutal budget cuts on pages 4 and 5. I think it's also a continuation of yesterday's focus of how, was it yesterday or the day before, of how the budget cuts will also affect Azimio leader Raila Odinga and former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka.
Yes.
Well, that in a nutshell is the Star for you, and that takes us to the cartoons this morning.
Oh yes, on page 15 of the Daily Nation, they talk about the police situation. Hardware replaced, software updating very slowly. There may be changes in the leadership of the police service, but they have images of other police using very brutal methods in containing riots and protests. And they say, yes, hardware may have been replaced. Software is updating very slowly. So, mambo ni yale yale. Yes. Despite a change at the top, still no change. On the Standard, page 12, they talk about members of parliament who curiously should be back in parliament sometime next week, I think, on the 23rd. So they've been busy apologizing. And we have two frames here. On one frame, there's one of the MP with a yellow and green T-shirt written, "I'm sorry." We've seen that kind of apology. But then the Gen Z punch comes right through the computer and delivers a sucker punch. And they say, apology denied, anguka nayo.
Anguka nayo.
That's a cartoon on the Standard.
Kamzo had to go with that one. Two other cartoons. First off, the Star, if you can have it, has to do with Azimio leader Raila Odinga. First off, with sort of kind of a alliance, ile dialogue yenye walikuwa wametaka kuanzisha. He's being dragged away. He's trying to address with his allies, Azimio allies there hapo karibu na yeye. Na anavutwa na caricature that looks like President William Ruto. Yeah, People Daily, through the lens of a caricature that looks like President William Ruto, he's saying just a passing cloud. And through his lens is a hand, and that is playing the strings. And whoever is being played here is Gen Z holding a placard, youth protests. And the hand is written "Foreign Donors," and the Gen Z is shouting, "Ruto must go." But it keeps on fading and fading and fading. But that is through his lens. Really convinced that these protests are being funded by foreign donors. That is the newspaper review for you. This conversation's coming up on State of the Nation.
Oh yes, right after the break, we'll be having our panel here in studio. You don't want to miss that conversation. Danson Mungatana, Pamela Odhiambo, Bitu Salachi, and Khatib Mwashetani. Do stand by for that. And of course, you can be part of the conversation through our social media pages on X at TV47 News and on Facebook, TV47 Kenya.
Coming up at around 8 a.m., is marriage about love or companionship is a question you're asking. We'll be having a whole full panel of a couple as well as young people to help us understand all these dynamics about your relationships as well. Stick around for that and much more. Number 2047 is our SMS number. 0793 267 279 is our WhatsApp number. Talk to us. Tuambie una watch ukiwa wapi. Taking a short break. We'll be right back.
Kila kiongozi ana hadithi yake ya kipekee.
Wazazi wangu walikuwa bit strict kwa sababu mamangu mwenyewe, mimi kutoka kuzaliwa sijailala nje.
The white small one, huyo ana sniff gunpowder na risasi na bomb. Alafu huyo mwingine ni Ridgeback ana sniff simba.
Even the employees knows that, so when in the boardroom is the chairman, the CEO, and the rest of...
At what point are you a wife?
The minute you get to that inside that door, you become now the wife.
Na kila maamuzi wanayoyafanya hufichua mengi kuhusu utu wao na uongozi wao.
We see God blessing us, and we now realize the power of giving also has to be rewarded back.
Kupitia kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi, tunakuletea mahojiano ya kusisimua na uchambuzi wa kina kuhusu viongozi wetu.
Pick your core business as the bigger stones. Put them in your diary first. Give priority the bigger things.
Usikose kila Alhamis saa 1:30 jioni.
In a world where challenges are as common as opportunities, there are those who dare to defy the odds. They are the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship isn't just about starting a business. It's about embracing uncertainty, pushing boundaries, and turning dreams into reality.
Hata ambao ni pesa ya kusave. Wallahi. Ambao mwaka ni pesa nyingi sana.
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
The way we run the business is in a very unforgiving way, where every team member has to bring out their best.
So, to all the dreamers, innovators, and risk takers out there, remember, being an entrepreneur isn't just a job, it's a way of life. Join the journey. Become an entrepreneur. The Grind, Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Here on Beyond the Limit, we celebrate the extraordinary achievements of individuals who redefine possibilities. In a journey of resilience and determination, these individuals demonstrate that limitations are merely stepping stones to greatness.
I'm Nancy Njoroge, a mother of 3. I have 2 girls and a boy, who is Clinton, and who is autistic.
When my heart got healed, I decided to come out to be creating CP awareness, to let other people know that there is such a condition, and people that has it is not that they are witches.
Together, let's go beyond the limit every Saturday at 8 p.m.
Welcome to The Realtor, where we take you on an exciting journey from bare land to dream home. Step 1. Finding the perfect plot. We explore location, size, and potential. Next, construction begins. Witness the foundation being laid, walls rising, and rooms taking shape. Step 3. Electricity matters. We delve into wiring, switches, and smart home tech. Step 4. From paint choices to fixtures, it's all about aesthetics. Step 5. It's time to get the right furniture. Finally, the big day. Time to move in and create memories. Join us on the journey to making homes a reality on The Realtor, Tuesdays 6:30.
Kila kiongozi ana hadithi yake ya kipekee.
Wazazi wangu walikuwa bit strict kwa sababu mamangu mwenyewe, mimi kutoka kuzaliwa sijailala nje.
The white small one, huyo ana sniff gunpowder na risasi na bomb. Alafu huyo mwingine ni ridgeback, ana sniff simba.
Even the employees knows that. So when in the boardroom is the chairman, the CEO, and the rest of...
At what point are you a wife?
The minute you get to that inside that door, you become now the wife.
Na kila maamuzi wanayoyafanya hufichua mengi kuhusu utu wao na uongozi wao.
We see God blessing us, and we now realize the power of giving also has to be rewarded back.
Kupitia kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi, tunakuletea mahojiano ya kusisimua na uchambuzi wa kina kuhusu viongozi wetu.
Pick your core business as the bigger stones. Put them in your diary first. Give priority the bigger things.
All right, welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV 47 with me, Fred Indimuli. Time for us to take a look at the headlines this morning. Paralysis as Gen Zs turn heat on counties. That's a big headline on the front page of the Standard. The other story given prominence, or the only other story that has found space on the front page of the Standard, it has to do with the expected reconstitution of the cabinet by the president. And the headline reads, "This is a cabinet we want," Kenyans tell Ruto. On the front page of the Daily Nation, it's a simple story, number 5050, and that is the number of people who have died in the protests over recent weeks. The 50 people, some of the images shared on the front page of the Daily Nation. And they say that is a landmark death toll crossed yesterday. Sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, friends and loved ones killed since the start of the anti-government protest a month ago. Most of the deaths have been attributed to use of excessive force by police in dealing with the largely youthful protesters. Now, according to the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, the numbers have been piling up since June 18, when the provisions of the Finance Bill 2024 stirred up anger across the country. Now, these are just some of the headlines we'll be looking at with my panelists this morning. We are privileged to have two gentlemen in studio. Danson Mungatana, Senator Tana River, and Hatib Mwashetani, former MP Lungalunga constituency. Good morning, karibuni sana. We'll also be joined by Pamela Odhiambo, former woman rep Migori. She'll be joining us via video link. Do we have her yet? Good morning, Pamela. Karibu sana to TV 47.
Good morning. Good morning,
Karibu sana. All right.
And good morning, Kenya.
Good morning. Yes. Let's start with you, Pamela. If you have taken a look at the dailies this morning, the second biggest protest in as many weeks. I think the bigger one was on the 25th of June last month. Now we're seeing 23 counties recording protests. We had thought that maybe the wave of anger and outrage among Kenyan youth had gone down, but it would appear that this may continue for a while. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I think looking at things, Fred, the anger of the youth or their need to protest will or may continue as long as they perceive, or Kenyans perceive, that what they want done is not yet done. It's unfortunate that with every protest, there are still deaths recorded. And to me, this is a big motivator for the youth, because they think they are largely peaceful, and yet some of them are brutalized. Like yesterday, if you looked at many pictures, like in Kakamega, there was this team that armed themselves with rungus, and the other protesting team disarming them. And you see these kind of indications make them feel that actually the government is out to fight them, and somebody is fighting them, much as what is appearing on the surface seems to want to seek peace. So I think there is going to be more of this, because the more they die, the more they feel like those who are still there need to continue fighting, even for justice for those that have been slain. And it is an unfortunate scenario. You remember they also said, even as they protest at the national level against the president and his team, they feel that this idea, especially of corruption, is entrenched deep into our counties. And they say it and they want and they keep repeating that, governors, we are coming for you. So I think there is need for some very decisive, tangible evidence that actually what they are demanding for is being worked on a serious note.
Okay. And the number of deaths, Senator, at the front page of the Daily Nation has gone just with the number straight, 50. That's all there is on the front page of the Standard, of the Daily Nation. It's a very huge cost, given the kind of agitation coming from the youth. A lot has been said about the conduct of the protesters and the conduct of the police in how they have been handling each other going forward. And the inclusion of gangs, that even yesterday we saw some county governments hiring gangs to try and contain protesters. Do you think that that could actually agitate more outrage by the protesters going forward? We've seen probably in different counties, they may not have the same kind of security apparatus that we have in the city. But that approach by county administrations could be a problem in itself, don't you think?
Well, thank you. Good morning, Fred, and good morning all the Kenyans who are there. Probably in this room, I'm the oldest person, so I can speak a bit about the history of protests. And I want to bring Kenyans who are listening to me back all the way to 1963. Before we got independence, there was a lot of agitation. And that was the first liberation this country witnessed. And it was successful because we got our independence. In the second liberation, we had now Kenyans who are asking questions about our freedoms. How can the president have power in the constitution to detain without trial, to hold people at pleasure? You know, how can the president appoint anyone he wants in the cabinet, in the judiciary? It was absolute power. How can we have a one-party system? Why are our constitutional freedoms restricted? Those of you who are not there, it was very difficult. Even having a meeting of 5 persons without police permission, you could be suspected of planning against the government. So the second liberation was about freedoms, our freedoms. Now remember, the first liberations, we didn't ask questions about money, about finance. The second liberation, we didn't ask questions about money, about finance, because our focus were different. Now we have these young men and women who are asking a question about money. And this is our third liberation. So in the grand scheme of things, in our time, when we were, younger people, we joined the likes of the older people, Akina Orengo, Akina Martha Karua, Akina Raila, Akina, all these top lawyers at that time, to push for a space. And we were then in the university, and we were in the leadership, the Kenya Law Student Society. Akina Okongo Mogeni, Akina Peter Munya, we were all there in student government, and we did our part. And there was a price to pay, just like there was a price to pay for the first liberation, second liberation. In this third liberation, there will be a price to pay. But I believe with all my heart that the country is going to come out better, like in both liberations. Yeah. And we are going to have to ask and answer these questions, difficult questions about the treasury. How is this money being raised? And remember, this whole thing started with finance bill. And our young people are very focused. It is the money. How are we raising this money? Okay? And after we've raised this money, how is this money being spent? You know, we have checks and balances, of course, but maybe they are not enough. In the National Assembly, Mheshimiwa here will tell you, they have systems of pushing for accountability from the executive, okay? In the Senate, we have systems of pushing for accountability from the county governors. But maybe those systems are not good enough. And the young people have come up to ask those questions. Okay. How do you plan for 803 million shillings for cars, for president, the deputy president, and the prime cabinet secretary for the year? Are they right now walking on the foot? You know, how do you live such luxurious lives from the expenditures of our money, and yet the development vote is denied of funds? So people are asking questions.
Okay.
And it is true, these kind of headlines that Nation is putting and all the other media are putting, this is the thing that was there even in our time. And in our time there was no freedom like you see now, because these are freedoms we fought for in our time.
Okay.
You know, now you have the space to be able to call the president names, to say the police must go, MPs must go, ministers must go, IG must go, and so on.
So the human cost is something that we should expect.
The human cost is part of liberation.
Wow.
And it is something that we need to know. It's a bitter truth that when people fight and the country gets better, there is a cost to it.
There's a cost to it.
So it is very sad, and our condolences to these people and the families which have lost people. My own take, Fred, is that revolutions must be handled in a way that will benefit the state.
Okay.
Let us go, let us not push it too much. Let us do it in a way that at the end.
Yeah. And we'll come back to that discussion of how we move forward from this.
All right.
It's an issue of the human cost, Bwana Khatib Mwashitani. Listening to the senator talk, and yes, it's true, even in liberation from the colonialists, there was a cost to pay. So when you're looking at the front page of the Daily Nation, we've seen the cost that we've paid so far. And this may continue, given the conduct that we've seen between the police and the protesters in handling this, and now the inclusion of even goons in the mix. Do you agree with that assessment that yes, for such agitation, there has to be a cost to it, and this is just what we're seeing?
Thank you, Fred. First of all, let me pass my sincere condolences to the family and friends who have lost their loved ones. Well, I would want to agree with your sentiments, because everything comes with a cost. And every decision that a person, organization, every decision that they make must come with some consequences. It is quite different from the era of the first liberation, the second liberation, and this third liberation. The reactions are different because of the space of freedom. You see, the level of which our democracy has matured is quite high. If you look at how the president has come out and listened to the Gen Z, it is unique in its way. And I believe there has to be communication between the people who are affected and the ones who are supposed to implement the remedies of the grievances which are coming up. So to me, I think it is true that we have lost a lot of young men and women, but at the same time, we have to check on our limits. You know, we cannot go beyond, and it cannot be every day. Every day we are losing people. Every day we are losing property. And you see, if you look at the issue itself, it is a multifaceted angle, because you're talking of the executive and the members of parliament. At the same time, we're talking about the law enforcers. And at the same time, we're talking about the Gen Zs who are representing us. So everyone has a role, and everyone has to be accountable. You see, if you look at the law enforcers, it is as per the action which comes from the demonstrators. They are reacting. Some of them are defending themselves. Some of them are in the line of work. So if you look at the casualties, you find that we are losing so many things. So I think it is high time for us to even advise our young men and women to have a limit. There's an open space for negotiation. Yes, the grievances are valid. They've been heard. They've been acted upon. But you can't expect changes overnight. Everything has to be progressive.
Yes. Are there agitation, are there grievances being acted upon? Pamela, we may accept that there is a cost to any kind of agitation Senator called it a revolution. But are we getting the dividends from this cost? If we have to pay with human life, the expectation is that the gains at the end will be worth it. From your own assessment, do you see, like, going forward, we will actually get the dividends from this kind of agitation by the young people? Pamela, are you still with us? Pamela, I directed that question to you. Are we balancing between the costs that we are paying for this agitation and the possible dividends?
I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much once again. It is a painful thing. It is a cost. Sorry, I mean, what brought in 1963. But I think that what we have through is that even and look at this real
we do apologize. There's a problem with the connection, and we can't hear exactly Pamela what she's saying. So I'll direct the same question to you, Senator. Between the costs that we are paying and the dividends that we hope to gain from this.
Going back to history again, the amount of blood that was shed for our revolution, for our independence, for the second democratic expansion of our space was a lot. And we may never know, because at that time there was no freedom. There was no, the new media freedoms you are seeing now, we fought them in our time when we were younger, and the older people, the Martha Karuas, the Raila Odingas, those were our seniors, the Nyongos, the Koigi Wamweres, those were the people who were heading, the Matiba, those people. We must remember that at that time also, they did make very huge sacrifices, some of them very personal sacrifices. And we may never know. So now that we are enjoying these freedoms and we can see that the media is able to show this, we have now internet, you know. In Kenya, unlike other countries, they haven't shut down this thing. Mm-hmm. It's all over. You know, whether you are saying pro-government, anti-government things, you know, the freedoms are there. And we thank God for that, because I heard the Pan-African Parliament delegation for Kenya, and we sit, and we've just finished a sitting in Midrand, Johannesburg. And with all these shakings that are happening, the African members of parliament from all over Africa, we are about 255, and we sit just 3 sessions in a year. But they are saying, you people, you are showing the way. Our young people are asking the questions that we couldn't ask, because in our time, we were focusing on other things. So we must say that the results of this is that there must be change. Mm-hmm. And the change will come. And I'm glad that this change is not just at the national government. This change is cascading down to the counties, mm-hmm. because like some of our young men are saying, there's a lot of issues in those counties. And maybe the systems that we have put are not doing enough to deal with the corruption and the losses of funds that our parents or their parents are paying in terms of taxes are incurring. So I believe very strongly that at the end of this, our country will become better.
You said at the end of this.
Yes.
Do you see that end coming soon, or do you predict that this kind of protest or this agitation will continue for a while?
No. Sometimes it's unpredictable, and I'm not their leader. I'm not able to speak for them. But If you look at France, France is a European country that had a lot of protests on the question of retirement age and the benefits. And they went on for some time. And later on, government made some adjustments. And in fact, recently, even Macron had to call for an election that even his own prime minister didn't know about. But it settled down. Now, I wanted to say this so that the young men who are there can listen and maybe add this to the other voices they are listening to. That they should learn from the history of this country, like the history of many nations. After you have made your point, after the Mau Mau, there were people who went to the table to speak about these issues. And in that time, they went to Lancaster House, and they cast a Conference 1, Conference 2, and finally something was worked out. After we went to the Sabasaba and all this and all that, the changes were made. There were people, and in this and that, the second liberation for Kenya, the people who were there were the political leadership. The first liberation is political leadership that was there. In this young people liberation that is focusing on finance issues, it is said that they don't have a leadership. Now, for me, if they listen to advice of the senator of Tana River, some old man somewhere, they should know that they must have some leadership, because that leadership will be able then to talk to the national government, to talk to the county government and say, look, this is what we want. This marketing they have done about being faceless, being leaderless, it may work for some time, but at the end, it is not what people do, because at the end, we'll need to have someone say, okay, we need to do this and that. Maybe someone should come out and say, I'm not their leader, but this is what I have concluded.
But that is the one thing they don't want to hear. And that's the question we're trying to see. How far can this go on? The president has invited them, has invited everyone and said, we need to dialogue. But they say, no, not yet. They've been effective without coming to the table. They've been effective in their agitation, forcing the president to even reject the finance bill, forcing the president to dissolve his cabinet. They have been effective without a leader. But the suggestion is that if anything is to change, then leadership is required. Do you agree with that assessment?
I do agree with their sentiments, because either way, the action is as a result of the executive action. I think with the slowdown of their activities, of all what they're doing, I think will be after the president has made the changes in the cabinet, and even to make sure that everyone who has been implicated of corruption is accountable, is taken to accountability. So these are the things that I'm sure once they have been taken care of, they will also see it in a different way, because they have their objective. Though the objective, it's not limit. I mean, it doesn't have a limit, because they do not have.
Is that a risk? That they could keep demanding and creating more demands? It started as reject finance.
Yeah.
Now it's moved to other things.
It is spontaneous. When you do A, they come with B, C. When you do C, they come with D. So what needs to be done, I think, is for everyone to be patriotic in Kenya and talk, because these are our kids. Their thinking is quite different, and it is impressive for them to have come out and raise some questionable issues which are of grave importance to this country. We have moved from generations to the generations, but this generation is quite different. As Honorable Senator has said it, that during the first liberation, the ones who took the mantle were politicians. And then a second liberation, the ones who took the mantle were politicians. But this time around, because of adverse freedom of communication and real-time, space, the social media, you have different kind of spaces whereby you can be able to communicate, you can get information and feed information. So that has kept them informed. And also I think what has sprouted all this is because of the lifestyles you know, as a youth, you are ambitious. When you finish your schools, you tend to have these ambitions of becoming a better person, looking at the people who represent you. Many of us think that when you become a politician, you will definitely be wealthy. But I don't think that is the case. I've been a member of parliament and I've seen how things unfold. As a member of parliament, there are so many responsibilities which are at the ground that you need to attend onto them by yourself. My thinking is that...
We see quite a number of members of parliaments showing off lagis. They have a lot of money. That is a belief out here.
But you are looking at those who are showing off. Maybe they have their own businesses. But let us look at the bigger portion of the ones who are suffering. If you look at, while being a member of parliament, you'll have all the privileges for you to be able to survive. But immediately you exit out from active politics, that's when you feel the pinch. And you'll know that being a member of parliament at that active time is different from being outside. So these young men and women are looking at representation as a service, a call. They expect their representatives to be attending into issues that are affecting them. But they felt that at some point, members of parliament let them down by passing a bill which they thought it wasn't good for them. But my thinking is that there was lack of communication. The bill ought to have been, there ought to have been a civil education for people to understand what is entailing in the bill and what would be the benefits of that bill.
Okay.
I think by that is where we started on the wrong foot.
Yet there appears to be a disconnect between the political class and this young generation. I don't know if we still have Pamela now. Have we sorted out the issue? Okay, let's continue with Senator. There seems to be a disconnect between this generation and the political class. And last week we saw something very interesting when the president went to KICC to sign the IEBC, to assent to the IEBC bill. And he paraded the opposition leaders there. And what the general reaction to that was that it would appear the political class are coalescing because probably they feel threatened by this movement that is leaderless, and tribeless. And now politicians are coming together to defend status quo. They don't want to see any change. That has caused a lot of trust deficit between the leaders who exist in the political class and this Gen Zs, if I may call it that. That is the genesis of the problem.
In fact, to show you that these people are not actually led by the politicians, you would see that even on the day of the big demonstration that was there, it didn't matter whether you are a member of parliament from the opposition or a member of parliament from the government side. They were all subject to being chased away. And those who are trying to go using an ambulance, the members of opposition and members of the side of government, they were all faced with the same amount of wrath. So the truth of the matter is that some of the members of the opposition have tried to take a ride on this, hoping to prop up their popularity. But for me, this is a liberation that needs answers. And it is not really very political, as you see. The questions that the young people are raising are about how we manage our finances. And I think the more we look and answer these questions, the better it will be for the nation. And from where I sit, my first piece of advice is for them to define a leadership that would be placing demands. But if that is not what they want, then the second issue is for the discussions like which have taken place in X, which even the president has participated in, the discussions that continue on X and their general feeling is crystallized in a document, okay? And then they must now take a step back because they don't have someone who is talking for them. They must take a step back and give time for those deduced demands, because they don't have a chairman or what, so the deduced demands, actions start being taken on them, so that now, like Mheshimiwa Mwashitani has said, we use the new form of communication. And you know, even for them, there was that fear that, okay, if we came out, somebody might hold me responsible for, say, destruction of property. So they have a genuine issue that is preventing them maybe from coming out openly to say this is what we want. But still, that is not an excuse from the side of the executive, because the side of the executive surely must be picking some of the issues and we can deal with them. What then must be required of them if they are truly intent on achieving results is for them to step back and give time to those who are in authority to implement the deduced
when you say step
agenda.
Back, when you say step back, you mean stop the protests?
They must, because you see, when we are not we are not putting enough for development of the housing thing that we are doing and so on, I'm not happy the way you are using the money. Still, the point is made, agreements are made, and then you still have to step back, if you are the wife or the husband, step back so that the next month's salary, you know, is then planned according to the agreement. So, like all other negotiations, once the demand has been put back, has been put on the table, those who are making demands need to step back to give a chance to those who are supposed to be implementers of the demand to act on those demands.
Yet we've seen that the administration, and I'd want to direct this question to you, Pamela, that what we've seen being offered as part of the solution by the president, it could be akin to prescribing old remedies to very new problems. The suggestion that people should sit around a table, the suggestion that you should form a government of national unity. These are things that appear to pacify and work for politicians. But for this generation, the ones leading the agitation, they do not want that kind of remedy for their problems. And we listen to the senator, the more politicians insist on these old remedies, the more it becomes a problem. Don't you think?
Fred, I'm very sorry that the connection keeps interrupting, but allow me to first join my colleagues in saying that just like during independence, the losses that we are counting are enormous, especially considering that majority of these people who we are witnessing dead are largely peaceful and not harmed in any way. Unlike during the colonial fight, the field marshals were actually fighting wreaking out of havoc on the then administration and government. But this one, the young men have come out largely as peaceful protest against order of the day. And having said that, it is sad. As a mother, I am very sad. As a leader in this country, I am very sad. Having said that, I like what Senator has just tried to prescribe. It sounds good, it sounds logical. But then the history or the past that we have been exposed to, and even what this young generation has observed, because the truth of the matter, yes, we are calling them Gen Z, and quite a number of them are very young, but they are also a very significant number.
We do apologize for that poor connection, because we cannot really get what Pamela is saying, and I could get that she's trying to lead us in a certain direction, but I'm not clear, so I won't try to misquote her. But allow me to welcome Beatrice Elachi, MP Dagoretti North, to the set. Good morning, karibu sana.
Asante.
So as we continue sorting out the problem, my question is on the kind of remedies that are being offered for the crisis. that we currently face. Last week, the president and alongside the former prime minister talked about dialogue, and it was to start this Monday. For some reason, it didn't take off. But we're saying that probably those are very old, archaic remedies being offered to a generation that is thinking totally in a different way. And the way politicians keep trying to direct this generation towards them appears to be part of the problem. Do you agree with that? That probably politicians should keep off this bit and allow the president to deal with this younger generation?
Well, yes. First, sorry for coming in late, but just to say that, first of all, is to send condolences to this many young leaders who have committed themselves, and I can see many of them have passed on now. And to request ourselves as a country not to ignore also that, to really reflect, not to take it for granted, because I think that's where we are doing a few mistakes. In terms of the dialogue, there are many different ways of doing it. As you say, yes, maybe they have seen us do so many dialogues and we have never gotten results. And so they feel the same way they changed their strategy on how to do things is the same way all political parties should be thinking. And don't try and play these old games of you can call other young people, make them to go to each other and combat. It is not working. In fact, it turns against, and it looks very bad. And everyone just knows, oh, that was not their strategy. That's our strategy, you see? So why can't we, even if the president will do dialogue, today I want to plead with the president, because we cannot just take things the way they are and say we are in a normal country today. And I know he knows that. And I'm hoping the ones who are also closer to him are able to tell him the truth. And the truth is, slowly by slowly, you will think it's normalcy, you will think it's just, and slowly by slowly, we will find ourselves again in a very tough crisis than even this. Because as you do that, people are taking advantage inside. There are those who are creating now their own armies, their own, and it is not going to be easy in a few months to come if we don't now deal with this and look at it properly. The young leaders are requesting for action. Action, just put in a few steps, but you have to stand in and you also tell them, as you give me time to do action, I need you to hold in these months. They will hold. Now, while the president says that his team needs to understand there is no room for mistakes the way they are doing, because the president goes 5 steps and his team brings us back 100 steps behind by making sure you have produced some funny things that people are asking. Even a layman who has never done security is asking himself, does it work that way? Even if you want to get the person who has done all the, do you really do your strategy in that manner? No. Then it brings anger. Then the next thing, they see one of their young person was just poured on acid. A young man who was on the streets this day, tomorrow, no, gone, but deformed completely. And what do you expect the parents to do? Parents are becoming angry. Anger is building again. We thought anger will go with the finance bill, then you reorganize. And so that would be my plea to all of them, that you are putting the head of state in a very, very wrong manner. And I am sorry to tell them, even this one of coming and saying, oh, it is Ford Foundation, then it means we have so many NGOs which people don't know what they do, because the last time Ford Foundation ever did anything to deal with civil society in terms of the things that we do on civic education is long. They deal with education and they can only fund you in fellowship, scholarships and all this.
Okay.
So you see, when you now start another war and you are in a war, it's not fair for the country even for the country.
Let's focus on how the president has responded to this. Because initially, it would appear the president really listened to the protesters and acted on some of their demands. And he ceded a lot. He made concessions on the finance bill. He dissolved his cabinet. But then he made a turn and turned to politicians as part of the solution. And that's where people began having a problem with him. You are already on this path of responding to our demands. Then it gets to a point you turn to Raila Odinga as if that is where the solution will come from. Do you see a risk there that the president, by bringing in politicians and trying to drag even the opposition into this, is causing more of a problem than a solution?
Thank you. If you look at how the democratic setup is that the president receives information. While you have set your pace to deal with the issues which have been brought forward by the demonstrators, there is also another part that gives you information. NIS gives you information that as a result, because in any organization, the agencies have been organized. People say they have been organic, they've come out automatically because of the issues. But at the same time, we are aware that there are some other political affiliates who have taken advantage. And there are other forces from outside. We know that they've taken advantage, that they want the country to go into chaos so that they can become the beneficiaries. So the president came out loud because of the information that he was fed. And I'm sure he is aware. And trace of information cannot be hidden. You know, technology doesn't hide. You cannot hide from technology. Whatever is transferred can be seen. So the pronouncement of the president are as a result of the information that has been fed. How he deals with it, it's upon him, because Kenya is one.
Do you feel it's necessary for him to go political on this one?
Of course, because
with politicians.
Of course, because the affairs of a country are driven by politics. Whether we like it or not, we have to elect a president. We have to elect, according to the constitution, we have to elect members of parliament. This being the result of representation as per the constitution, then there is a need of calling the like minds in terms of, when it comes to politics, sit with them, get the ideas, and get a roadmap on how you can deal with it. I know it's quite different because the generation that has come up, the way they do their things is different. But at the same time, the president has to incorporate everyone so that he can have a position. Because, you know, like minds, I think they think better. If you pollinate ideas.
But that's a challenge there. Senator, just a moment. We want to see if we can engage Pamela. She's not been able to make any contribution so far. Pamela, we do apologize for that poor connection. We're trying to examine now the president's response to the issues, the crisis at hand. Him turning to the political class. And it has brought more criticism his way because nobody expected this to be turned back to the politicians. They're saying it is not, politics is not the remedy for this. A dialogue with politicians may not necessarily be what the protesters are looking for. Do you see that as a problem for the president?
Yes, Fred. I think there's a problem more than a solution. Why? Because remember, it is only a year when the president was elected. And before he was elected, he was deputy to Uhuru Kenyatta, who at some stage, after some process of opposition, made peace with the opposition leader. And then the same current president protested and said it was wrong for him to make that kind of move. And all along, he ended up blaming that union, that regime of government. I remember part of the league,
Yes. Give her a call directly on phone. But Senator, on that same question, is it, do you think it is a logical way for the president to quickly turn back to politicians as that to offer solutions to this problem?
Fred, I really like the way you're trying to get this discussion going. I think it's first class. And I hope Kenyans are listening, because you are pushing towards solutions. And the question you have asked is very fundamental. Are old solutions relevant to the new problems? The bringing in dialogue, is it the same? Is that old solution, is it going to yield to this new generation? The turning into politicians, is it going to bring the solution to this problem? And my colleague here, Honorable Elachi, has said one of the ways to deal is to talk about the actions. But I want to first of all say this. You know, if the organization of this young people doesn't have a leader, then there is always a possibility of miscommunication. Why I say so is that, like the signing of that bill, that ceremony where Raila was present and members of oppositions were present, yeah, that whole ceremony was not about the response to the issues of the young people. You see what I'm talking about? There's miscommunication. That was an IEBC bill, okay? That bill came about because the opposition, all of them, the Kalonzo Musyokas, the Martha Karuas, the Eugene Wamalwas, and all those, led by Raila Odinga, they came together and said, we are rejecting the bill that had started the process of recruitment of new commissioners for IEBC. So it is a product of their work, a product of the NADCO discussions, okay? So it is only logical for them to be present when that bill is being signed. This is different from the issues that the president is dealing with. So I wanted to
Perhaps
say...
the issue was that the president and the former prime minister used that same event to announce the possibility of dialogue the following week. That is where they made the announcement.
Okay. I think then there was a misstep there, because that bill, from all of us participated, the National Assembly and the Senate participated in that, the making of that bill, the discussions that brought that product. So what I understood myself, the purpose of that bill was that we are not going to sign this in State House because the setup would be uncomfortable, because the way that bill came up was not the normal government bill. It was a bill that came because people negotiated, and the president was involved in those negotiations with the leader of opposition. So it was fair to come to a venue that was neutral, so that everyone can come there and feel comfortable. They are not coming to state power, they are coming to a level where they're all together. So if the young people were able to have a leader, they would have gotten that information that this is about something else. However, I wanted to suggest this because in terms of way forward. I have said the discussions in X can be deduced and issues worked out or, extracted from those discussions. And any academic, any person who has, some college, all of us who have gone to school, you can be able to extract the issues, and say X, Y, Z. And so far, I have done X, B, A, B, C. So what is remaining is this. And this is what my plan is. So that then nobody can say, oh, he's calling, the opposition is calling. I think the president and the governors need to take the leadership in this and say, from the discussions that were there, X, Y, and Z has been extracted.
Okay.
The young people have not shown willingness to come and sit face to face. Maybe they fear consequences, etc. So we have extracted X, Y, and Z. And so far, we have been able to do X and Y. All these other things are pending. They are pending because we need this and that for us to be able to execute X, Y, Z. So we are requesting that time be given so that we do these matters. And from where I sit, Fred, by the way, the culture now must come. I'm the governor. I must tell people, by the way, salaries are going to be delayed this month because I have not received my money. Normally, I pay salaries for this amount of money. Every month, I think this is what must come. A new custom must come out. Every month, every 3 months, people want to know about this money. Okay, you guys, we've been able to collect X amount of money. Now this is the president speaking, maybe telling the Kenyans. We've collected X amount of money, and I have spent your money this way. I've paid salaries, I've paid for these development projects, I've paid these loans. So what I'm remaining with is Y. Now for me, accountability. And this custom, this new respect for people's money must come from the head of state. It must cascade to the people who are running our county governments. Because one thing you will hear about governors, they will not tell you, they'll tell you, oh, we are launching this road, oh, we are launching this. And most governors don't tell you, this hospital costed this amount of money. We sourced this money from here, and this is what we have paid the contractor, and the balance is this. I think this is the issue. And it should take now the responsibility of the president and the governors, who are the people who are running most of our money, to be able to say, on the question of corruption, I'm standing here with the chairman of the EACC, and this is what he's telling me, that X, Y, and Z has happened, and this is what we have recovered, this is what is in court, this is what we need to do.
Well put on issue of accountability, and we'll be back after the break to talk about accountability and the way forward. Will the politicians do it for us? That after the break.
Kila kiongozi ana hadithi yake ya kipekee.
Wazazi wangu walikuwa bit strict kwa sababu mamangu mwenyewe, mimi kutoka kuzaliwa sijailala nje.
The white small one, huyo ana sniff gunpowder na risasi na bomb. Alafu huyo mwingine ni ridgeback ana sniff simba.
Even the employees knows that. So when in the boardroom is the chairman, the CEO, and the rest of.
At what point are you a wife?
The minute you get to that inside that door, you become now the wife.
Na kila maamuzi wanayoyafanya hufichua mengi kuhusu utu wao na uongozi wao.
We see God blessing us, and we now realize the power of giving also has to be rewarded back.
Kupitia kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi, tunakuletea mahojiano ya kusisimua na uchambuzi wa kina kuhusu viongozi wetu.
Pick your core business as the bigger stones. Put them in your diary first. Give priority the bigger things.
Usikose kila Alhamis saa 1:30 jioni.
In a world where challenges are as common as opportunities, there are those who dare to defy the odds. They are the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship isn't just about starting a business, it's about embracing uncertainty, pushing boundaries, and turning dreams into reality.
Hata ambao ni pesa ya kusave, wallahi. Mbao mwaka ni pesa nyingi sana.
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
The way we run the business is in a very unforgiving way, where every team member has to bring out their best.
So, to all the dreamers, innovators, and risk takers out there, remember, being an entrepreneur isn't just a job, it's a way of life. Join the journey. Become an entrepreneur. The Grind, Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Here on Beyond the Limit, we celebrate the extraordinary achievements of individuals who redefine possibilities. In a journey of resilience and determination, these individuals demonstrate that limitations are merely stepping stones to greatness.
I'm Nancy Njoroge, a mother of 3. I have 2 girls and a boy who is Clinton and who is autistic.
When my heart got healed, I decided to come out to be creating CP awareness to let other people know that.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV 47 with me, Fred Indimuli. My panelists this morning, Danson Mungatana, Senator, Pamela Odhiambo, former woman rep, Beatrice Elachi, MP, and Katib Mwashetani, former MP. We continue this conversation and we're trying to see a possible solution. We've tried, and I think Pamela, we now have Pamela on phone. I'm hoping that she will get to at least to make one contribution successfully. Pamela, let's go back to the question I'd asked you about the inclusion of politicians in this and the necessity of that. The president appears to find it very necessary to bring politicians. He said he'll talk to other political formations going forward. And it's the necessity of that in this current conversation that I'm wondering, is it really crucial to include the politicians in this at this stage, Pamela?
Thank you, Indimuli. I hope now you can get me via the phone.
Loud and clear. Go ahead.
Great. I'm so sorry that I had a lot to say, but now I may only say a quarter of them. But starting with what you've just asked, yes, it would appear, and I said earlier, I was struggling to say I liked the way my colleague, Honorable Senator Mungatana, was trying to explain how this can be a solution, and what appears to be logical.
However, I want to remind all of us that from the look of things and what is happening, it is clear to everybody that Kenyans, and especially the younger generation, have no faith. What we are now dealing with here is more of inability to trust that even the inclusion of the opposition and all these other politicians, like in the past, will yield any tangible fruits. Why? Because we are just from an election 2 years ago. And the current president was the then vice president. You remember what happened when the famous handshake took place between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Amolo Odinga, the leader of the opposition. And it was protest from him. And indeed, as things went by, even towards election, the corruption and the scandals that Kenyans hoped that would be stamped out is still persisting to date. And these are some of the indicators that make the young people believe that even calling on the politicians or bringing in the opposition or talking of such formations like inclusivity or a government of national unity does not appeal to them. Because I think one thing that I've heard very clearly stated, and I believe all of us will acknowledge this if we want to be sincere and honest. Some of the problems, or most of the problems that have been highlighted, they are in the Constitution, and the Constitution as it is seems to have a solution. For example, if somebody is flagged, like the Auditor General keeps flagging them, even yesterday, the media was awash of some MPs who misused the CDF and some millions that could not be explained. There was no receipts, there were no invoices, no accountability. And all these things, the young people know, and all of us know, that it is important that these people are accused in a court of law and found to be guilty, and judgment brought forward for Kenyans to hear and see. And this is what we are now dealing with. I think even if the president was to bring in the opposition or the top political leaders as we talk, this is apparently not seemingly going to restore the trust. And it is this which we are struggling with. So as we sit here today, to me, we go back to an ethical dilemma, an ethical issue, a value system. What the president needs to do, and do very fast, and all those governors that we are mentioning as people who are holding a big chunk of the Kenyan money, Kenyan people's money, is to struggle and restore the trust. And as my phone was going off, I heard my sister Elachi struggling to say that, you see, when on the surface, the president started off well, and he told the people, away with that bill, away with everything that is happening. We are going back and listening and doing 1, 2, 3 things. Then other issues emerge and other utterances emerge, which make the protesters feel like all this is just PR. It is not a genuine intention to fix the problem. So I think the concept of the trust, the concept of showing the public that what I have said stands. If we are talking about that corruption, there are cases that these children keep citing that they want to see prosecuted, that they want to know what happened. How did these people get scot-free? And all those things, I wonder if somebody will really need a dialogue to explain to Kenyans what it is that happened or what is happening.
Okay, thank you, Pamela.
This is where I think we are stuck. The question of trust owing to the past episodes that have been there before, and there was no solution that came to the table.
And that issue of trust
the issue
deficit.
of corruption just has to go.
Thank you, Pamela. On this issue of trust deficit, it appears it's common, and it's not just in the executive, it's on very other crucial institutions of governance. Parliament, for example, there's a lot of lack of public confidence in the Houses of Parliament, both the Senate and the National Assembly. Going forward, that needs to be rectified. Even if the President was to name a new cabinet today, if the conduct of the National Assembly, especially the National Assembly, is not checked, that means we will not have sorted the problem. Don't you think that probably there's something needs to be done? I do not know what.
Yes.
For the towards changing the way the National Assembly especially does its job.
It's very true. First of all, I think the solutions should be action-oriented, because each and every grievance that has been raised has to be followed by action for us to be able to get trust from the citizens.
Correct.
In terms of how Parliament conducts its activities, when you find that the Auditor General has raised a flag in regard to how members of Parliament have been utilizing their CDF, or how they've been using their CDF, there are policies which are guiding them on how to use, but we do not have a recourse just in case you contravene with the policies which are there. So I think the first thing that should be done is, one, every member of Parliament or every appointee who is by the President or any government official who works in any government agency, in case there's any red flag that is raised, I think one of the executive things that one should do is to step aside for further investigation. Because once they step aside, then a lot of information will be coming out. And if that becomes a culture of that, if there is a red flag which has been raised against you, whether you are CEO of a parastatal, you are cabinet secretary, you are member of Parliament, if there is a red flag in regard to any issue, you are compelled to step aside. Once that feeling becomes a culture in ourselves, then we'll be going through
the feeling is that members of Parliament have insulated themselves so well that however bad their conduct is, they cannot be held accountable. Even the issue of recalling a member of parliament is almost impossible. Up until now, it hasn't been. It's part of the constitution, yes, but apparently it's almost impossible. There are quite a number that this younger generation have said they are going to institute the recall clause on once the IEBC is in place. You are a member of the National Assembly, and you must agree that there are a lot of questions in as far as the accountability of the House.
Well, yes. You see, one of the things I have learned to do is don't run away from your mistakes. So I cannot run away. And I know we have done so many bad things, and we still do them. It depends on how members of parliament. You see, I sit in the CDF committee. I am also a very worried Kenyan as a member of parliament also. You see, I ask myself, and those are the questions I think young leaders are asking, that how come? And that is what we need to be asking ourselves, even as we say we are bringing in the new cabinet. I'm hoping you are coming in and you don't have skeletons, because they will unveil those skeletons. Correct. So if you know you have, please don't walk into parliament and then we put you on a TV and display you in a horrible way.
Even the National Assembly will still be called upon to vet the new cabinet.
Yeah, well,
the last vetting
we
process
went back, I will use the Bible verse, I will say, we went back to what happened, that in the time of Pilato, and I'm sorry to use that, but it's the best way, you clean your hands and you take it back to where it started, because we have refused as members of parliament to be bold enough to face the truth and let die with the truth, be uncomfortable with your truth, and tell and advise. Because when you are sending it back, the president will understand. He knows you have advised that this is wrong. But we use, our people like using, like for example, before we came into all this, I go to Eldama Ravine, with His Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, I'm with my majority leader. I stand in a crowd and I say, fellow Kenyans, the problem is not even the finance bill. The problem is deeper than the finance bill. Why can't we sit as leaders? I send you as our leader to speak to the president before we get to Tuesday. That was on a Friday. Go and think through. God gives us a window, gives them a window, even in Nyahururu. Something just blocks, the people around just blocks him to think it is right. And he moves, and then we are here now. Now, do not do any mistake of trying to say there will be a clean one who can come through, even the ones who are here. Don't. Because already they have unveiled even what you have done recently in those ministries, so they will unveil it. Let's stop from there. Now let's come to trust, and I agree with everyone. The biggest challenge we face in Kenya is trust. Is trust, not just trust. We have a lust of greed, of money, all of us. It is a demonic spirit that is holding Kenya like this. If the president will not become the one who will agree to hit it, it will hit everyone who has been in it. And so even if you say you want to bring the old ones, even the old ones have problems, by the way. Even the ones who we are in opposition, we are not good. Because don't forget, if we were bold enough, we would be hitting,
and the
because we are the ones who deal with everything you do as government. Why is it that we are not hitting on those public accounts, which we are the ones sharing?
And the protesters have already said no to the political class.
No, I agree. But at the same time, I want the media also. You see, today you'll forgive me, but I'll say this, because this is our country, Kenya. And if we joke as mothers, I can see we are going where men will take us in the very wrong direction. What is the solution, even as media? All of us must be having solutions. One solution should just be this, that as we move into the right direction that the young leaders will want to take us, leaders who went through Wings to Fly, leaders, because I think even we forget that some of these people are young people who went through a very humble background.
But I don't want to let go of this parliament question.
No, I'm bringing parliament, and I am saying today Kenya would be the best in Africa.
Okay.
I want you to walk into Dagoretti North. 2 years, look what I have done. If I can do it in Nairobi, it means if you have been in parliament for 20 years, don't sing that song to us.
Okay.
It means your constituency
Senator,
should be shining.
If you look at the National Assembly, it is part of the main problem because the finance bill was a product of the National Assembly.
No, it was for Treasury. Treasury, it comes to us.
That you passed in the National Assembly, despite public outcry. The president was forced to go back on that to remedy what the parliament had done. The conduct of this parliament, because even the Jubilee Party enjoyed a majority, yes, but the majority in parliament did not work the way it's working in the 13th parliament, that it is fully ceding to the executive. Once parliament reconvenes next week, part of the agenda will be, because the finance bill is still hanging, to rectify that.
It's over.
Secondly,
it has to
will be
come
to
new.
vet the new cabinet that the president will bring. We saw the last vetting process, how it went. And the chairman of ODM party said, we give the president his skunk. Well, should that be the conduct of parliament? That you know very well there's a problem here, but you cannot do anything about it. Let's give the president his skunk. Is that the way parliament should be helping the executive?
You know, as I'm listening to Honorable Pamela and Honorable Elachi, particularly what Honorable Elachi is saying. You know, Honorable Elachi is also a member of our fellowship in Parliament, where we pray together as National Assembly and Senate. And she's speaking my heart. In fact, if I was a voter for Dagoretti, I would be voting for her, because what she's saying is what I want to say. She's actually representing me. The only thing I would want to add, let me tell you, and I'm speaking from my heart. The president needs prayers, sincerely. I was in Tana River in Itsoe AIC Church this weekend, and I also went to Methodist Church of Kenya in Garseni. And we prayed for the president. Even before I came here, I prayed for him. Why? I'm praying that God will give him wisdom. You understand? Because even what we're talking about, parliament, what, it was a push, you know, from
him.
Yeah, from the State House, you know, to make sure that this passes, because we need this development vote. We need this. We need to pay our debts. We need this. We need this. So it was a push. So I am praying that God will give him wisdom to stand and accept to be unpopular with all his friends. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. The normal people who are sitting with you, get rid of them, Your Excellency, and accept to be unpopular. Accept to be unpopular and make correct decisions. You know, what honorable colleagues here are raising, those are the issues that are facing our people. You know, you can see that this is the amount Senate has released to the governor. And then there is nothing that is happening on the ground. So the young people are asking, why isn't the governor arrested? You can see the CDF has been audited. There is hole here, there is a hole here, there is a hole here. Why is the MP not arrested? And not let's leave it at the MPs. You go to the constitutional bodies that are supposed to be independent constitutional body. You know, go to IEBC itself today. Let them give you the audit report from the Auditor General. You can see, in fact, the president should make friends with Auditor General now. Auditor General is one of the most unpopular people in government because she comes to out the rot that is in government. So I would bring her in. And you know, you would find some of your friends have stolen public funds. Some of you are very good governors, have stolen public funds. Some of you are very good MPs, have stolen public funds. And we have summoned some of the governors. They come, sometimes they don't come. The MPs don't even go through any processes because the CDF is not even, there's nobody who oversights what they do. Like what Mheshimiwa Mashetani has said, the guidelines are there. If you break them, there's no mechanism for punishing anything. So he should sit with the Auditor General. Look at what that discussion on X was saying. They mentioned specific people. Take action on them. Like the way you dissolved the government, take action on these guys. And maybe don't fight too many people. Pick one from the coast, one from Nairobi, one from the Western, one from Nyanza, one from Upper Eastern, one from... Pick them up. Let them be picked by... In fact, you don't even have to worry about whether there is a case or not. ESCC today, if you bring in a new CEO today and you tell him, wachilia, zile zilikuwa zimekanyagiwa, wachilia, you will see, my friend, heads of parastatal, chairmen of parastatal, big businessmen in this country. They are all, hiyo mambo zao zinakanyagiwa ESCC. And some of these people are very good friends of the big people around this country. So the president, pray for him. Akae, Mungu ampe ile wisdom ya kusema, wacha nipoteze marafiki, wacha nipoteze hata wa Kenya. If I take this action and they don't re-elect me, the new custom. And that will be your final word. The new, that will be my final thing. The new custom, the new, let me say, the new habit, the new, I'm missing the word. What is the word? The new... mode of operation. Behavior in this country, it will change. It will change. And he does not need to bring the opposition in this government. What people want, is action. 1, 2, 3. Like the way when he dissolved cabinet, the attitude changed. Now he needs to pick 1 or 2 guys. And he just needs to go to ESCC. He will find his minister friends there, his MP friends there, he will find his parastatal friends there, he will find his ambassador friends there. They have been mentioned. And some of the officers there are fearing to bring them out because of what? Because they fear, the way politics is. Let me tell you. I want to allow everyone to have a comment for about 2 minutes. Let me just leave it there, but say that let us pray for the president to make unpopular decisions with his inner circle, but popular decisions with the rest of Kenyans. And it's interesting that you say we pray for the president. There are many people who would not agree on going He's
that
the one
direction.
who is wielding the power.
Yes.
He's the one who is wielding the power right now. It is not the people outside.
Pamela, I only have about a minute and a half for your final comments on this. Should we, is praying for the president a solution you think will work for us?
Indimuli, that is a tricky question for me because to me, prayer is everything. And this time round, allow me to say I will come to the studio tomorrow again. But today, let our president, on that context of prayer, simply read Ezekiel chapter 22, the whole of it, and Ezekiel chapter 28. There are some judgments against Jerusalem sins and against Tyre and Sidon, and let the president lead Kenyans to confront and stamp out sin in Kenya. The sin of corruption, the sin of idolatry, the sin of injustice, the sin of nepotism. If we confront this sin, then our nation will heal.
Okay. Thank you so much, Pamela. Bwana Mwashitani, your advice to the president going forward as your last comment.
Well, thank you. I think my colleague, Honorable Senator, has said it well, that what the president needs to do is to act immediately, because there are so many people who have been mentioned, from CEO's position, from cabinet position. Let him take a bold move and give examples that this is the direction that Kenyans will go hitherto. Because if he doesn't do that, because if one is mentioned, there must be some element of truth inside. So give it a position, give it a time for it to be, for investigation to take off, and then we will know exactly if one is culprit or not. The other thing is that from the previous regime, there are so many malpractices which were conducted and there were no actions which were taken. So I think it's the right time, since we have a lot of pressure from the Gen Zs and there's a lot of information being shared all over, then the expectations will be that people have to be brought into accountability and be brought into box. That is the only way that I think the Gen Zs will feel comfortable that there are some actions being taken by the president.
Thank you. Finally, Beatrice Salachi, final word.
Well, I'll say that to our youthful leaders, you started well. A good leader will never go with stones on the streets. You don't need to destroy properties of people who have any ties with government. They've just struggled. They are on the streets of Kitengela. You do not need to destroy, because that is where your fellow young leader maybe is the owner or has gone there. That's where he or she daily gets their bread. And so you can do everything. You can even sit on the roads and decide nothing is passing. That's okay. But to destroy, it shows now there are two groups. There was one that was very focused to see Kenya where it is going, and people, the whole world respected. There's this one that has come, that the governors have decided even to bring in others with the rungus. That one we don't want to see in Kenya. And governors, if you are unpopular because you have stolen money, don't use rungus on young people on each other. Don't do that. Don't shed on us blood that is not supposed to be shed. For us in Parliament, to bring back our dignity, we must confront the truth. We must reflect in ourselves. We must ask ourselves, what have we done that has wronged Kenya? And finally, for the president, I beg and I repeat, the new cabinet, you can give all the CSS that were there another job. Don't bring any who was there, because the files have been prepared well. From where they have stuck the money, from what they've been doing outside there, you'll be so shocked, even you yourself.
Okay.
God bless you.
Thank you
God
so
bless
much,
Kenya.
Beatrice Salachi, MP Dagoretti North. Pamela Odhiambo, who joined us via phone, former woman representative Migori. Katibu Mwashetani, former MP Lunga